Alrighty guys, welcome back to the channel. It's really cold back here, so I had to put on my new ski mask. Actually, who knows what this is from? Give you a hint, my daughter actually got me into this anime show back in the day. So, oh, by the way, for the Dallas show, so I can even see what I'm doing here. For the Dallas show, my daughter will be coming to Dallas for the audio show there with her boyfriend and celebrating my birthday. That's my birthday weekend. Doug's going to be there. Dave's going to be there. Pete the Greek is flying in. And tying into today's video, I convinced JR with Wally Tools and WAM Engineering. He wasn't planning on going to the Dallas show, but peer pressure made him change his mind this weekend, and he will be there. And the reason it ties into today's video is before Florida Audio Show even started, I filmed a one-on-one with him like we did last year. If you want to take a look at a really cool video I filmed last year, was with me and JR talking about subwoofers, bass integration, bass in a room, how it propagates, and how there's so many very poor instructions out there that, in fact, coming from people of authority that just aren't accurate, at least per my experience, his experience, and when you really run numbers and get out in the field like he does. And what we did today was, well, not today I'm releasing the video, but what we did that day before the show started was I interviewed him a little bit more on that topic, but particular to the video I released a week or so up before the show, where I featured the home in Beverly Hills with the Avantgarde Trios. He was the one that went out there and helped integrate those bass horns with 2 REL 25 subs in a relatively, for that amount of subwoofer diameter and surface area, was, you know, it's not about the amplitude. It's not about needing volume. It's about integrating it and creating a quasi-swarm. He couldn't move those bass horns and REL 25s where he wanted to, but using phase controls and different volume levels and crossover points to get a quasi-swarm to even out the peaks and dips. So I wanted to release this video outside of the show coverage because I release 30, 40, 50 videos a day, whatever, and it gets lost in the shuffle. And this is a little bit longer, but it's for people that really want to get into understanding bass, understanding what he did over at that home in Beverly Hills, and following up a little bit on what we did last year. So be sure to watch that as well if you get a chance, but enjoy this one with JR. Actually, it just started, so.
Are we live?
No, we're not live, but oh, it's a found call.
United Airlines.
We know you're trying to escape from Kierman. I got you. I got your back. Okay. Alrighty, guys. Very familiar. In fact, the pose that we did last year from this same exact room. Well, the same show. Got JR here. Wanted to follow up a year later. Last year we talked about bass, and since that time he's worked with several of my friends and also members, subscribers, going to their home, doing similar stuff that you saw with my friend Doug. You'll see him this weekend. But one thing, you may have missed this when I went to Beverly Hills and saw that phenomenal system with the Avantgarde Trios. He was instrumental in helping address the bass issues, which it had multiple subs, but that was a lot of bass, different types of bass drivers that had to be coordinated, and that was no small task. So I thought to follow up on that system, having somebody that was there and instrumental in helping achieve that phenomenal sound that you heard and I was, agreed with, wanted to get JR's thoughts on what he did there.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Yeah, that was a fun job. Beautiful room, beautiful system, wonderful equipment. So when I met the space and the equipment, of course there's 4 of the bass horns and 2 of the REL subs, and it sounded fine. And of course I take initial measurements and I look at not just frequency response, but of course time decay, and the goal is always that we get 30 dB drop all the way down to 20 hertz in less than a third of a second. That's my goal. Tough to do when I can't move the subwoofers around to my chosen
Those
location.
are about as big as subs, whether it was a REL.
They weren't moving.
No.
They were not going to move. That was made clear from the outset. Even limited options I had with the RELs. And then they were kind of close to the corners, and the corners are never the right space for subwoofers.
That's something that, yeah, we ought to reiterate that. There's a lot of bad advice going there to put your subs in the corner, shoot them across, do all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's probably a recipe for disaster more than anything.
Yeah, it guarantees that you will exacerbate every room mode. That's the highest pressure zone in the room, lowest velocity. That's going to exacerbate every room mode that you've got. So, I mean, outside corner, I often put subwoofers at an outside corner, but never an inside corner. I think I did that at Doug's, actually. I put one in near an outside corner. So
Yeah, one.
Yeah. So yeah, it took many hours because the controls available to me, some of them weren't available. Like I couldn't adjust continuous phase, and I really would like to.
Yeah.
But in the end, I was very happy with the results I got. Weren't as good as I would have gotten with
Continuous
if I
phase,
could have my way with putting them anywhere I want and with continuous phase. But man, that system really sings, and you identified that. It's fantastic. Reach low.
Well, I mean, it also goes back to one thing. Nowadays, you can get great frequency response, and talking about ORC we were earlier, and Bach, you can get great frequency response at your list position in your ear, but what DSP can't really do is give you full range. You need subs or a full range speaker, and as we talked about before, a lot of these full range huge towers are not the optimal way to get full range sound, because you're symmetrically loading the room, and you rarely where bass is propagating from those speakers is the best place in the room.
Yeah.
It's probably the best for the tweeter and the mid-range, but not the rest. So integrating subs is still very important, regardless if you have DSP or not. And so if you want to do it right and have the toughest situations, this is the guy to call, because he's not only worked with Doug, and you saw that video series. If you haven't, definitely watch that. But off camera, which I wasn't participating in, several of my members have had you come out and they've said it's the best money they've spent. So a lot of people know you for the analog side of things, but don't forget the WAM engineering. This is the Wally Tool side. But I think you've been doing more and more projects like that. Is that true?
I have been doing more in-home projects, as far away as China recently. And it's something that I just want to quietly do, because there's only so much of it I can do, and there's so many projects on the analog side I still have yet undone. Right. So I don't talk about it a whole lot, but I really enjoy what I do when I do. And every system I go to and work on the bass, I say two things at some point during the process. Wow, bass amazes me, because I'm always surprised by something. Something surprises me about bass. Secondly, that it just the other thing, and I learned this very recently. Here's something for you. I think your users could use. So I work very closely with limiting bass impulses in time. I want a fast decay, right? Well, I always thought that I could get away with getting a great job done in pretty much any environment. But then I met one room that was very, very reverberant throughout the frequency range. Really reverberant, right? And so I thought, well, we'll treat that later. I came here to do the bass. Let me take care of it. I didn't get the results I wanted to get. I was embarrassed. Best I could get is 450 milliseconds, which shouldn't be embarrassing to most people, but it was embarrassing to me because I know I can do better. And something just wasn't working out very well. And then I left this client with a prescription to treat specific treatments to get the reverberation time down in the mid-range and high frequencies. And I left him with the thought that it's likely that the bass will tighten up. But I didn't really understand at the time. I didn't really understand at the time the mechanics behind which I was suggesting could happen. It happened. He called me back and said, I put in the treatments where you said to get the overall reverberation time down, just targeting the mid-range. He said the bass tightened up. And it's these type of things that nuances I discover that really shock me about it. And to your point about DSP, DSP will work in the frequency domain but not in the time domain, except perhaps now with Edgar's new deal.
That's right.
That
Now
might
it's
be a
going in the
significant
time.
breakthrough.
It is
That could
definitely
be.
a big breakthrough in that regard. We were talking about that, and I'm gonna have a full video on that. But it actually brings up a macro point. Why I feature people like JR and Edgar, why I associate with these people. It's not because I do have a formal business relationship with Edgar now, but these are people that are brilliant, but they're always learning. There's so many people that pretend to be brilliant and they never advance in the hobby. You're constantly learning and advancing, whether it's in the analog domain, in the subwoofer setup stuff. This is the kind of people I look for in the hobby, because those are the true brilliant people, the ones that aren't dogmatic, set in their ways, the ones that are open to and agnostic to whatever works.
Yeah, whatever works.
And
Whatever
that's the
works.
kind of people I like
Yeah.
to feature on my channel, and JR is one of the best, so just wanted to spend a little time with them today. And anything else you wanted to share? What are you going to do? Another analog
Here at the show?
presentation? Yeah.
Here at the show, yeah, I'm doing analog seminars. I've got to
We'll forgive him.
I've got to, yeah, thank you. I've got to refine my message, because over the last year, we've discovered so much. I feel like I know less now than I did last year. And last year I felt the same way. Just
Okay.
more we discover, the more we realize how much there is we don't really understand about this dragging a stone through a groove. It seems like it'd be simple, but there's so much unstudied that actually we can hear. It's amazing.
And that's another thing. If you do vinyl, yeah, it makes you scary when you really think of how complex it is. But that's another reason why you should have somebody that actually spent all this time navigating, so you don't have to. I mean, I know if I did a turntable rig, he'd be setting it up for sure. And Doug's here; he's had it set up. No question, the difference.
No question, yeah.
So anyway, great to see you. Hope you have a great show. All right, guys, I gotta steal this out of here. Ready? Okay, let's run. All right, see you soon.
It is.